Everybody, welcome to another episode of the Earn It podcast, making it to and through nursing school. I am your host. Today is Wednesday, March 5th, and on today's episode, we're going to be going over why and how to stay on top of things in between semesters, and we're going to also be going over some NCLEX basics. All right, everybody. So first things first, why should we stay on top of things in between semesters before we get to the how, right? Right now, it's March, where it's about the midterm of most people's semesters, and summer is coming up. This only obviously applies to you if you're going to have another semester after this. And yes, even if it's just your last semester where all you do is precept, it still honestly really matters. So what you should be, the important thing here is your next semester, more than likely for most of you listening, you're going to need to be fresh on everything that you've learned this semester, right? It needs to be as if, you're like when you start your first day of your next semester, it needs to be like you finished your last semester, the day before, and everything needs to be fresh. We all know how important it is to be fresh, right? For those of you that don't really like things like cumulative finals, imagine taking a cumulative final on your previous semester, right? On the first day of your next one. That's what it's basically like without being like that. You may not be getting graded on something on your first day, but you're going to be building on information. You're not going to be in the groove. You could make an argument that you should kind of look through things and flip through things and skim through things like maybe a week or so before your next semester starts. But I don't think that that's a great idea for many reasons. One of them, other than being fresh for your next semester and kind of really building that foundation that you need, is that you guys, we're training to be nurses, and we're going to be taking an NCLEX, okay? Which we're going to get to NCLEX prep later and how we're going to prep for NCLEX. And maybe you can kind of work some of this into what I'm telling you now, but the fact of it is you're going to have to know it all anyway. Are you really going to wait until it's the semester that you're supposed to be studying for NCLEX? And that's the time in which you're going to look at your notes from your first week of your first semester of nursing school 2 years later. You really think that that's ideal? It's not. And it's not, right? It doesn't sound like an ideal thing because there's a lot more writing on your NCLEX than any of your freaking exams in nursing school. It might feel like this is the biggest deal. Everything's the biggest deal in the world, but it's actually not. When you are sitting down to take that test, you want to talk about test anxiety, right? You want to make sure that you do everything that you can at that moment in order to be as prepared as possible. Now, again, this isn't to scare you. Look, it's your responsibility. You're in nursing school. You're training to be a nurse. You're going to be responsible for people's lives on a daily basis at work. So you need to step it up. So how the hell do we really do this, especially without ruining our semester, right? First of all, I hope you're keeping your notes for this semester, okay? And whether they're organized or not, it doesn't really matter because you're going to spend some time organizing it, okay? So the first thing is make sure you keep all your notes. The second thing to do whenever you get a chance is to organize the living hell out of them if they're not organized already. Chances are, if you made it through a semester of nursing school, all of your notes and flashcards are organized, right? Don't throw away any of your flashcards. I maybe should have made this episode a little bit sooner in the semester, but maybe not. So you're going to keep everything. Make sure everything is organized. Now you're going to, first of all, determine when exactly your summer starts and when does your summer end, right? When is your last day of class of this semester? And when is your first day of the next semester? Okay. After you determine that, really determine it, because right now for most people, it's probably just, I know it's sometime in May and then we'll come back sometime in August or September or whatever. You need to know the exact dates. Okay. Now, I know a lot of you are doing BSN stuff. Some people are doing BSN during the summer. That's fine. This is not meant to be like spending hours studying every day, like you're in the semester. This is different. You've already gone over this information, and you have been by this summer, you will have been tested on every bit of information that you hold. So we're not doing the same thing. So before I lose you, you're not going to be meticulously going over things, okay? This is not going to be that difficult. So the next thing you do now is you're going to determine how much time before the next semester and after this semester you want off. How you need time off. Like at least 1 week or 2 weeks, okay? Now, again, if you have a 2-week buffer after this semester and a 2-week buffer before the next one starts, that's already a month of summer gone. So you do have to be careful with this. How long you need really depends on and again, it depends on the amount of time that it depends on your mental health state, okay? Because if your mental health state is not what it needs to be, then you're not going to be in a headspace to be reviewing, okay? And really, if you have flashcards, then this is going to be a lot easier for you than if you have notes. Don't make flashcards for the sake of this. Do not do that. You don't have time to do that now, and you won't have time to do it during the summer, whether you're doing BSN stuff or not. You're going to determine everything that you have. Now, this work that I'm talking about now, okay, so you need to determine now what your summer is going to look like and how much time you need off before and after. I do recommend splitting your time off, your mental break, to before and after. This is another reason why I said I do not personally think it is a good idea for you to just wait and then the first couple weeks leading up to the next semester to go over everything, because you're going to already have a lot of work to do, because you're going to have to get clinicals sorted out and possibly your preceptor stuff sorted out. You might be working a lot more this summer. There's a lot of stuff that's going on, okay? You need a mental break before the semester, and you need a mental break right after this semester. That's my recommendation. My professional recommendation. Now, you're going to determine all that now. At the end of the semester, you're going to have all of your stuff. And you're going to take the amount of weeks that you have determined that you're going to be reviewing, okay? And you're just simply going to divide. You're going to evenly divide. This is why it's really good if you have physical flashcards, but if not, you have basically everything divided up into weeks. You have everything divided up into tests. However you have things divided up, you need to, as evenly as possible, divide up. And if you have to have a week off in the middle because you're traveling in the middle of summer, take that into account too. That's fine. It doesn't have to be solid. I'm just doing things for simplicity's sake here. If you have flashcards, again, that's ideal really for the situation. Because you're going to sit there and just flip through the suckers. This isn't going to be hardcore study time. You're going to have one set of flashcards. Let's say it's weeks 1 and 2 and 3 of your first semester of nursing school, all classes, weeks 1, 2, and 3, flashcards. And you're going to take a week for these. You're going to take 1 week and you're going to go through them. A little bit on Monday, a little bit on Tuesday, a little bit on Wednesday, a little bit. And by the end of the week, if you do 15 to 20 minutes a day, that's all that this is going to take, folks. 15 to 20 minutes a day. And you can determine I'm only going to do them on weekdays, right? You take a couple days off during the week. This doesn't need to be 7 days a week during those quote unquote review weeks. That's not what I'm saying either. So You're going to look at 15 to 20 minutes a day, maybe 30 if you just really have the time, or you're just like, okay, I just need to get because you'll find that you forget a lot of stuff. And I do recommend that you start with the beginning. So you're going to do all of that. Now, all this is going to be divided up. I should have mentioned with one exception. And that one exception is that you should save the last review week to go over absolutely everything. And again, it doesn't have to be hardcore studying these flashcards. I'm talking about during the last week, you're looking at all of them front and back. You'll find that by the end of that last week, you're going to remember a crap ton of that information. Some of it you won't, but it's in your brain, and you're keeping those pathways fresh so that you can dig down and take that information. So you should take the last week of it and review absolutely everything all in 1 week. So basically, you're just looking over some flashcards. If it's notes, that's fine too. You can read your little notes. You might need closer to the 30-minute mark per day, and you're just going over it. And by the end of the week, those are studied again. Okay? I guarantee you, if you take a reasonable amount of weeks worth of class material and you divvy it up, and you're looking at it 30 minutes a day if you're notes, or 20 minutes a day if they're flashcards, by the end of a 5-day week, you've got that stuff down again. Why? Because you've already gotten it down several times before. The amount of times you've went through these flashcards already, come on, folks, a lot. I know you've gone through your flashcards a lot. If you made it through a semester, you're going through flashcards constantly, right? So this is it should be very kind of passive almost. It should be, when you're looking through them, it should be very kind of laid back. You don't need to stress. So even while you're reviewing, you shouldn't be stressing. And yes, you can do this if you have BSN stuff also, because no offense to the BSN programs, but BSN programs right now, from looking at the curriculum, looking at the courses, are reading some articles or looking something up and writing a paper about it. Like, you're essentially writing a bunch of papers. You are taking in some information, and you're taking in useful information, but it's a time management thing, not I need to learn all of this stuff, right? Your BSN courses you're not going to be brute memorizing a bunch of complex medical information, right? That's not what the BSN programs are, or the BSN classes, if you know what I'm talking about. If you're going to a nursing school that it's a BSN program, that doesn't really count for you, because you're taking it along with your medical stuff. I'm talking about for the people that are going to a traditional nursing school and found a way to do their BSN at the same time. You know who you are. You should have everything reviewed. Now, again, and then you have your time off. It's really important that this is no longer than 2 weeks before the start of your next semester. Because depending on how passively you reviewed your flashcards and notes, honestly, you could forget about 30 to 40% of that information. Now, again, it's so much better than if you were to have forgot it all anyway. I guarantee you're going to be lost on the first day of your next semester if on the last day of school this semester, that's the last time you look at anything until your next semester starts. It's going to be a disaster, guys. You got to figure, okay, it's midterm right now. If you're listening to this around the time that I recorded this, and you know of other people that can benefit from this, I'll say it at the end of the episode, but you got to share this info with somebody and get it into their head, because it's going to be a completely different experience for them. And everything's going to be a lot easier in whatever next semester holds. Okay. Now, NCLEX prep. Okay. When does NCLEX prep begin? At what part in nursing school does your NCLEX prep begin? Now, you might think that I'm going to say the first day of nursing school. You know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about time that's set aside from your regular studying specifically for NCLEX. This should not begin. In my opinion, with my education background, I do not think it is a good idea your first week of nursing school of your first semester to also get NCLEX study material and start studying right away. Now we're midway through a semester, so if it's your first semester, now is about the time to at least start looking for options. And I think it's reasonable to begin this process during this first kind of break that you have, whatever that break is, whether it's a summer or whether it's 2 weeks before winter and fall, winter and spring. It doesn't matter what it is. Figure it out now. Now's the time that you're going to figure out your plan, because the things that I'm going to go over are going to prompt your plan. There are things that you need to do now so that you're not figuring them out later. You're studying later. Now's the time to figure out what you're going to do. Okay? Later is the time to study. If you're saying to yourself, coming up this summer, or coming up, whatever break is coming up, that, hey, I'm going to start studying for NCLEX. If you start then and don't start anything now, you're going to be spending the time, that quote unquote study time, figuring out what the hell to do for such a large amount of time of that, whatever that break is, that you're not going to get much studying done. Now, is it good because you're going to get it done? Yeah. But the point is, and again, if you're in between your third and fourth semester, and you're like, oh, I haven't really done it, that's fine. As long as you're not waiting until the next damn semester, as long as you're not waiting, Lord forbid, until the end of your fourth semester when you've got 3 or 4 weeks in between the semester and you taking your NCLEX. As long as you're not waiting that long, you should be fine. Okay? It's fine. If it's, if you're in your fourth semester right now and you're listening to this for whatever reason, right? If this got to you, hello. And start now. You got to start now. You have more, let's face it. It's busy. It's crazy. It's kind of chaotic, but you do have time to get this started now. It's midway through your fourth semester. If you start now, then those few weeks after the semester is over with, you're going to get a lot more out of it. If you at least, again, start figuring out what your plan is going to be. Something that I don't really hear talked about that much is what I'm going to go over about the NCLEX. I never hear anybody talking about this. And I'm not sure if it's because of me or because I don't know why. Maybe I haven't looked at too much kind of NCLEX people. Maybe I don't look at that because I don't really want influence from other things. I'm coming at this from someone that has taken around 14 industry certification exams, all of which you need an 80 or above to pass, all of which are very intensive, select all that apply, critical thinking. I've taken a lot of these, and I have taken an approach to every single one of these certification exams, and they were all high stakes for me. You got to look and again, before I started nursing school, I was thinking to myself, everybody has to take the NCLEX. I wonder if there are specific exam objectives. Get those two. Okay. Get these 2 words in your brain and do not ever forget them. Exam objectives. Exam objectives. Nobody freaking talks about these. And this is how you hack the system for any test that you're going to take. That's some kind of big deal. This is the same for the MCAT. This is the same for the LCAT. This is the same, the LSATs. This is the same if you're sitting for your bar exam. Every single kind of huge certification exam, you got to think about, this is a exam like committee of who knows how many people that are all experts in their field, and their job is to come up with how to properly test people. So they have to do this categorically. They have to do this very systematically, which means they have to, and this, honestly, this includes the NCLEX. What they do is they take everything that you're going to have to be tested on and they put it into different categories. And then they assign a certain percentage. Now, not all the time is this going to be available, but most of the time, you end up with a list of exam objectives and the percentage of the exam that you will be tested on this. Why is the percentage important? This doesn't apply to NCLEX, but if, for instance, you're taking a huge certification exam and there's some topic that you find really difficult, okay? And then you could possibly look at the exam objectives and find out that it's 2% of the exam. Well, guess what? You can kind of look at it, but don't spend countless hours trying to get something down that's going to be 2% of the exam. You have the rest of your life and career to figure out what that 2% is going to be. You don't have time to do that now because you have something else that's going to be upwards of 15 to 20% of the exam, and that's where you need to focus your time. Because you need to focus your time first on the larger percentages of the exam. I will say this, I don't give a damn how early you start your NCLEX prep. There are percentages. You will focus first on what those larger percentages are. What kind of material you need to study for those? What kind of questions are those going to be? And after doing like 3 of those categories, you have yourself 60% of that exam down. It's very important. So real quick, I have posted in the description of this podcast episode the 59-page document for the NCLEX. It has exam objectives on page 9. I'm going to go over them right now to show you that I'm not talking out of my ass. We have 4, let me go here. I'm going to quote here from this document, starting on halfway down page 7. The context of the NCLEX RN test plan is organized into 4 major client needs categories. 2 of 4 categories are divided into subcategories. The first category is safe and effective care environment. Take every single word and think critically about it. This is subdivided. So safe and effective care environment has 2 subcategories. What that includes is management of care, and guess what? Safety and infection control. Does that sound familiar from maybe your first semester? Because if it does, okay, you're looking at anywhere from 25 to 37% of the NCLEX comes from management of care and safety and infection control. Okay, so on page 9 of this document, of this PDF, it says safe and effective care environment. Percentage of the items from each category. Management of care has 15 to 21%. We know that the NCLEX is dynamic. If you're in nursing school and you're halfway through any semester and you don't know that NCLEX is dynamic, I'm not going to go over that. You should know what kind of test it is. They talk about it all the time in nursing school. And if you're in a nursing school that hasn't discussed that with you midway through any semester, I feel bad for you, whatever school you're going to, okay? Management of care, 15 to 21%. Safety and infection control, 10 to 16%. The next category is health promotion and maintenance. Health promotion and maintenance. Now, already we can see a lot of different questions like, oh, how would we educate the client to do this? How would we educate them to prevent this or take care of that or improve their health or take care of XYZ? Or what to do when they're on XYZ medication. Health, promotion, and maintenance. This is 6 to 12% of the exam. And again, for those of you that are visual and you look on this link that's in here, it has a pie chart underneath so you can visualize what we're talking about. Psychosocial integrity, 6 to 12%. Okay. The 4th category is divided up into 4 subcategories. Each of them hold a good amount percentage, right? Physiological integrity. This is your like pathophysiology stuff. This is your physiology. So we had psychosocial integrity and we have a physiological integrity. This is divided up into 4 categories. This is huge. The first one is basic care and comfort. That's 6 to 12% of the exam. Pharmacological and parenteral therapies. Pharm is That one, a lot of other these I'm realizing, and I'm going to talk about this when I'm done going through the exam objectives. A lot of these seem a little bit vague and ambiguous, and you don't really, right now, you're not really understanding how health promotion and maintenance, where exactly to tie that into the curriculum that you may have gone over or will go over so far in your nursing program. That's part of what I'm going to talk about in a few minutes. Basic care and comfort, 6 to 12%, right? Farm is 13 to 19%. Okay. And I don't know about you folks, but farm is first semester for me. Okay. Farm is first semester for me. So again, what did I say earlier in this episode about keeping up on top of stuff that is in between semesters? And this is one of the things. I'm going to take a drink of water. Pharmacological and parenteral therapies. 13 to 19%. So almost 20% of this exam is farm. So far, if you focused on safety and infection control under the safe and effective care environment, and you focused on farm, you're almost at 40% of the exam. So almost half the exam is farm and safety and infection control. Reduction of risk potential. So reducing risks. 9 to 15%, and physiological adaptation, 11 to 17%. Okay, so let us see if we can go over. I'm going to kind of scroll down. Oh, and if you look on page 11 of this document, what the hell does management of care mean? Integrate advanced directives, delegate and supervise care of provided. It lists, guys, it lists everything you need to know for the exam. It lists everything that you need to know. So all of these subcategories and categories, if you scroll down, this is a 59-page document, and only on page 9, it says page 5 on the actual page, but when you're scrolling through, it says 9 of 59. Okay, distribution of content is where you get all your exam objectives and your percentages. And if you keep scrolling down, for each one of these subcategories, there are a list of things. Manage, again, under management of care, receive, verify, and implement healthcare provider orders. Okay, so how to process provider orders. Recognize limitations of yourself and others and utilize resources, provide care within legal scope of practice, all of this stuff. So let's go to something a little bit weirder. Okay, psychosocial integrity. The nurse provides and directs nursing care that promotes and supports the emotional, mental, and social well-being of a client experiencing stressful events, as well as clients with acute or chronic mental illness. So this is mental health, guys. Your mental health course is psychosocial integrity. This is a very short list. Again, it is a small percentage. It's like the 6 to 12, I think it was. Assess client for abuse or neglect. Assess client's ability to cope, assess the potential for violence and use the safety precautions, provide end-of-life care, client support system, psychosocial factors influencing care. Like, it lists everything you need to know. This is the blueprint for you and your NCLEX study. Okay, so without going over this entire document and spending who knows how long of this podcast going over and reading this out loud, click the damn link in the description, share it with freaking everybody, and this, you need to use this to make your plan. It's your job, because every nursing school is different. Okay, some people, like the stuff that I'm taking is called med-surg, where at other facilities and other nursing schools, it's called pathophysiology 1 and 2, advanced pathophysiology, or whatever, instead of med-surg, right? Med-surg is basically pathophys. Okay, with the care, with the interventions interweaved, that's why it's kind of med-surg. So it's your job to go and tie these in to where you were taught these in your program, because there, depending on where you are in your program, there are obviously going to be things in here that you have not gone over yet. So it's your job to figure out where are the things that we have gone over, and let me look at that material. Now, why am I saying that? Why wasn't the first thing that I said to buy NCLEX prep material? One, it's expensive, and most of you would tune out and say, I'm not spending $200, $300, $400 on that bullshit. Another thing is, you guys are paying for nursing school and are spending your whole life in nursing school, and they're giving you a lot of information. And if you're going to basically take all of that and ignore all of that when you're preparing for your NCLEX, what kind of sense does that really make? So what I say is, obviously, that might be a step for you, is to buy NCLEX prep, but not right away. You have material that you've spent countless hours going over and meticulously writing, and flashcards and study sessions, late nights, early mornings, breakdowns and mental breakdowns and crying and screaming and getting in fights with your significant other, or not having a dating life. Potentially your social life has been freaking ruined during this process. But you're going to take all of that you went through, all of that information that you went through, all of that stuff, or whatever you're going through, and you're going to take that and ignore it and just buy some NCLEX prep and think that's all you need to do. No. That's what nursing school is. It's NCLEX prep. Not to say that you won't need additional materials or to consolidate it, or if you just for some reason cannot figure out what in your program so far goes to what exam objectives or subcategory, okay? If you absolutely can't do that, which you can if you are in nursing school, you're smart enough to do it. You're smart enough to do it if you made it this far. So I'm gonna say that. But start off with what you have before you go about buying it. Now, if you just have all the money in the world or whatever, and you want to go ahead and buy the best thing, I do not have advice right now on what is the best NCLEX prep material, because I would have to buy all of those things. And if you notice by listening to this podcast, you haven't heard any message from any sponsor, which means I don't have, $1,200, $1,500 to go and buy every single NCLEX practice thing, and then the time to go through all of those things and to make recommendations to you. I do not have that capability. So, which is fine, because what's best for me might not be best for you anyway. So it's not really, whenever you're going and looking at reviews of different things, what's the best NCLEX prep? Just realize that that's highly subjective to the individual that's making the review. Unless you're also talking to, or you're hearing from somebody that's already made it through nursing school, passed our NCLEX, and then reviewed it to tie it to the NCLEX. But again, even for that individual, it's going to be, specific for that person on how well that material was able to tie into the NCLEX. Or even more rare, you can go to someone in the nursing field and nursing school going through NCLEX prep that also has a background in education and can give you objective, and I do mean objective, scientific-based reasoning for why one is better than the other. Basically, if you're in your fourth semester or whatever, or your third going into your fourth, I know you probably feel the pressure a little bit more. So I'd say if you haven't done anything for NCLEX prep and you're in your fourth semester right now, buy NCLEX material right now. Okay. So I guess that doesn't apply to those. For my first and second and halfway into the third, really you should start looking at kind of what you have available to you right now. Okay. So that's my little 2 cents. But again, click the link, go over. The NCLEX folks are literally laying it all freaking out for you. How much of what, it's all there. So so just take a look at that. So if you made it this far, thank you so much for listening to the Earn It podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please follow so you can stay up to date on the latest episodes and not have to spend time searching for it out in the ether. No one has time for that, especially nursing students. And share this with other people that you think would benefit. If you would like to come onto the podcast to chat or for advice, to give advice, or for just a Q&A session that you think others might benefit from, please click the link in the description of this episode and fill out a very, very short form. And again, thanks so much for listening. Go out there and earn it.